We lost lost your mic, maybe.
Got to turn the button on here.
Yeah, turn the button on.
There it is. Okay.
Uh,
There it is.
welcome,
no,
Robert. Welcome.
Thanks for a nice introduction. We have to update it. There's the Alcuin Award for the.
Oh
for the
my
book.
goodness! Yes.
About that.
You know, the thing about that is that I mean, that's a pretty special award to win. And what's really interesting about that is that the book received a number of nominations for design, aesthetic and appeal of the book. And it just couldn't just couldn't seem to win them all, as it were. But it did manage to get the Alcuin, and in many ways, that's sort of the really nice one to bring home. And boy, was the competition stiff, as it always is at the Alcuin Design Awards. For those that don't know what that is,
pretty fancy.
Go ahead, Robert.
Pretty fancy award. I'm very happy to have received that. So thanks for submitting it. So let's get on here. Let's talk.
Let's see. Let's chat. Let's gab.
Flip through the book.
Yeah. Well,
everyone have a copy.
Yeah, that's the first question. Is that I guess before we get started here, I just want to make sure that everybody received their PDF ebook of the book. And if you didn't, please type in the chat that you didn't. And we'll be sure to make sure that we send to you ASAP so that you do get it. Keep in mind that the book is it's a book to send. Oh, I see Margot just said that she did not receive hers. Margot, check again. I believe that it was just sent about 5 minutes ago. So if you don't have it yet, it's definitely on its way. Yeah, so for those that haven't received it yet, it's on its way. Please type in the chat if you haven't, and we'll get you a copy so that you have it. But getting back to Robert Pasternak, he's here, and we'd like to talk to him about his fantastic book. And I've got a number of examples that we're going to show tonight of Robert's work. But before we get started, what I thought might be really nice is for Robert to show you his den, his studio, where all the magic happens, which is where he is tonight. What do you think, Robert? Should we give people a quick tour of your studio and what it's like, a little fly on the wall opportunity for everybody?
Yeah, if I could sort of manhandle this iPad here.
Perfect. Bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, while Robert
there we go. There we go. Okay, it's going to be a bit dark in here. I don't know what that letter stands for. No idea.
Right.
I was sitting at a spot where I almost don't sit at all. That's sort of there is an easel here. The chair is usually a little bit more squished into the easel there. This is a very squished studio. A lot of things had to come in here. This is a work computer, not my artwork computer, with a chair. This is my other chair with my work iMac computer there. Sort of like room for 2 Roberts. There's room for 5 Roberts. There's 5 chairs here for 5 Roberts to sit. I'm sort of spinning around. I'm sorry, but there's one chair here with a nice little reading lamp on top. There's that easel chair that I don't do much painting here because I really don't have the space. So the easel is also kind of a makeshift table. The 2 chairs there that I mentioned, and there's a spot over here where my paint is. I don't sit in the paint, but I could sit there and contemplate if I move that. So it's going to be a bit dark, or maybe not. This is sort of get in here. A few favorite things, Godzilla, some neat, nifty little race cars here, an old crush bottle. Some miniature, here's like a miniature sort of store display. There's kind of some neat miniature things in there. Old sci-fi painting that I sort of channeled an artist that had just passed away. I did not know he had passed away, but I had been, his name's Richard Powers, and I had wanted an original of his, and I wrote a whole bunch of old paperback sci-fi covers, and there was a series that I wanted to start, just kind of looking for inspiration, and then I started this painting, and it just came so quickly to me, and I felt this urge to sign his name to it, and I could have. It was just so at the tip of the brush there to sign his name, but I didn't, because it's not his painting, it's my painting. But just a little while later, I found out that he had just passed away. And I just found it so interesting and strangely bizarre and spooky that that I have this original Powers painting now. So this is behind. I'm walking behind where those two chairs are. When I sit, I've done a lot of my comics at the computer here, but none of the comics in Place of the Being were actually done in the studio, because I've only been here for a year and a half. There's my original Jack Kirby drawing. No, it's not original, but I like to say it is. But there is an original drawing there, which is kind of in the book, but a different version of it. It's a huge drawing. So this is the view from the chair that I'm mostly sitting at. And where I'm sitting, that red chair right there is where I will be sitting today, that I set up just sort of special for this occasion.
Robert, did I see a Frazetta painting over there on the door?
There's a Frazetta poster of one of his paintings called The Snow. I've had this poster up in all my studio bedrooms. My first studio was in my bedroom. I've had this poster since I was 13 years old, and it's been up, in all the places that I've resided at. And I had these large pieces of paper from this other school project, and I thought, I'm going to draw this, redraw it, do this pencil drawing. And it was after this drawing that I did, which turned out very, very well, that I decided to be an artist. That was December. Oh, wait, I'm giving away one of the answers here.
Yeah, don't give away anything yet. Don't give away anything yet.
This is the top of my filing cabinet with a few knick-knacks.
I see a acid man there.
Look at that.
Hey, when it glows, it knows.
It knows. Let me see here if I could, where'd my hand go? Whoop. Look at that. He's magnetic. He's magnetic. His brain. There's what else? What else we got here? Some breath drawings over here. A robot I've had for a while. Look at that.
Hey, let's see those breath drawings.
They're kind of on this an accordion fold here. Boy, oh boy.
For those that are watching, you're going to have a quiz in just a bit in the poll. That there's an answer that you might be able to get in the poll.
Get a load of this here. This book right here. Roadrunner book. It's sort of like a big little book. A little animation in the corner. This here.
You might be covering your microphone, Robert.
This book here taught me how to draw when I was like 6 years old or so. It didn't teach me how to draw, but I drew every page from here. I copied every page, not traced, but copied every page for some reason. And it gave me this ability to be able to, like it honed my eye-hand coordination to be able to draw things realistic.
What is that? A big little book?
It's a big little book, yes. And I love Roadrunner comics. I mean the cartoons, but that's been around for a while. What else can we see here? I don't know. Probably going to be dark, or maybe not. This here. I'll just breath drawings. We're talking about breath drawings. Oh, we're wasting time. Got to talk about the book. This thing here is.
Oh, that's a collection of your breath drawings.
Some of them.
Yeah.
I have 150 sheets, 750 8.5 by 11 sheets. Can you believe it?
Yes, I can.
If we could get in on, anyways. You could go on one of my blogs and you could see a whole bunch of them there. So let's, I don't know.
That was
enough?
great. Thank you, Robert. That was a real, like I said, a little bit of an opportunity to be a fly on the wall, which is wonderful. And thank you for that.
I dare want to recreate the studio.
Yeah, exactly. What I think is hilarious was we talked about doing this where we were going to have you do a walkthrough of your studio, and then at the end of the discussion, you said, interesting about this is that none of the illustrations in Place into Being were done at this studio. So it was an older studio at your previous house, which is where all of the art was conceived and, of course, brought to life. Which
that's when all the crazy.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's when all the crazy jobs started. Was at that time in the other house, which was 7-8 years ago now, and that's when I started the comics. At what age? 7, 14, 21, 28. I'm just sort of seeing the poll results.
There it is.
Do I give the answer? Are we? Well,
Yeah.
that's no one. There's 0 and 0 for 21 and 28. Interesting. The real answer is age 14.
The real,
which I was going to almost gave away. We're talking about the Rosetta painting.
Yeah.
But I was 14 years old.
There it is.
When I decided, and you know what else happened at that time? If anyone's familiar with Steranko, Jim Steranko, very world famous comics artist, worked under Jack Kirby. He had a gallery exhibit at the WAG. And
I knew this. I went to it.
I saw that show.
Yeah.
And I don't,
it was cool.
I mean, I don't know if that had any influence per se, but I mean, I was into art and you know, I was into comics and it also opened up me. It was my first visit to the WAG.
Mm-hmm.
So since I was there, I also saw the other exhibits that were happening there, and it introduced me to Manitoba artists that I still love to this day, like Ivan Eyre and Esther Workoff and Don Proch.
I met Don Proch recently. Oddly enough, Ariel Gordon, who's running the back end, she was working for U of M Press, and they put out his book, Don Proch's book, and it was, Ariel can correct me here, but I want to say it was about 2 years ago that it came out now, and they held the launch at the WAG, and some of Don's original artwork was there. Including the mask that has the runway landing in it that you look into.
Yes, that blew me away when I saw it when I was a kid.
Me too.
It blew me away.
He was a huge. It's funny that you mentioned this, Robert, because he was a huge influence on me as well.
Oh wow!
Especially in my teenage years.
It's world class artists. These people are. It's amazing. They're you know mostly known locally, Manitoba. somewhat Canada, but not to a larger degree that they should be. You know,
Yeah,
live in air. Well, yeah, incredible number of artists in this province, in this city.
yeah, there
So,
is. We've got a new poll up, Robert.
yes, I see that. Which also, those, you know, all of those books mentioned are very, very early books. Like, so in the grouping of first books, like almost any of those books mentioned could be the answer. But there is one that did come before all the others. But those are all, like, my interest was all over the place right from the get-go. And the work I've done right from the beginning has been all over the place.
So
And
why
it
do you
just
think that is?
continues to be. There's kind of this, I love it all. Just love it all. I love art, and I love so many different kinds of it. There's just this deep understanding, you know, maybe more emotionally than intellectually, perhaps. I don't know. But there's just and so in my own art, I just kind of want to explore all these kinds of different areas. Hopefully some I've come up on my own, but there's certainly you know, riffs in a sense of other artists, you know, like Magritte. You know, I've done, you know, I'm a surrealist at, you know, at my core. So you have artists like, you know, Dali and Magritte, even Escher to a degree. And then there's, you know, the sci-fi stuff, like, you know, Sid Mead, Dean, and the fantasy stuff. So it'd be interesting to see what, I don't know how people will really be able to figure out which one. Frank Rosetta. That's very, yeah. So we have Frank Rosetta up top. That is so close to the first book, definitely, for sure. First one was Roger Dean Views, and
That was the first one, and
yes.
only one put that guess. I wish I could know which person it was. It doesn't tell me which person made the guess, but one person made the guess. Also, Robert,
you know,
Paul Gerbenchuk wanted,
no way.
wanted to say hi.
Right on, Paul.
Good to see you, bud. So I wanted to share that with you. That was the comment.
No, I was at a record store in the mall when I was a kid, and I saw these huge posters that they had in the window, and, you know, flying elephants, you know, elephants with insect wings, you know, landing in the water, and he had all these posters, and I wanted to buy one. It was like $10 for this, and I couldn't decide. I was just like, because, you know, $10 was a lot of money in a way. And I just could not decide. I was just there. It must have been for like a half an hour or more trying to decide and looking. And the guy behind the counter realized that, you know what? There's this book here. It's $12.
Yeah.
And it comes with a poster.
Sold.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer. And yeah, I mean, it's an incredible book. I could get it and show it.
Yeah, get it and show it. And while you're doing that, Robert, I think the idea of talking about these influences and how eclectic your tastes are, and that influence and how it's had on your work, I think probably the best thing here to do is for me to share my screen and actually show. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen.
Probably one of the most worn out books I have.
Oh yes, I remember this.
The back is the front.
Yeah,
and this is the poster that it came with, which is also has hung up since I got it. I would like to get it as it's really faded and worn out, but the book was amazing. This is it here. Anyways, love it. Perfect.
I've got a question from the audience for you, Robert. A couple of them, actually. We'll start with Adam Yeaters. Nice to finally see you in person. Are you still making mini comics on a regular basis?
I just started to put one together today. I did a comic yesterday. They're usually like pages that I do. And then it was just this morning, I was thinking this would be or could be the next Acid Man issue. So just today I was putting together the next Acid Man issue with the comic I did yesterday. And almost got around to printing it out to see what it would look like. But yes, and you know, I mean, my mini comics are, you know, kind of ish. There's a comic here. This thing here, which is very, very, very mini, which is a recent thing. Online comics. It looks upside down. There we go. It's like a newspaper. It's trying to be a newspaper. Can you see the edges on that there?
Yeah.
I need it. So anyways, yeah, it's so these are like abstract comics, recent comics that are in here. There we go. Yeah, maybe Matt. I don't know. But
that one, no, I haven't. That one.
There's the back. There's a weekend
I
color
haven't
page
seen that
there.
one. No.
So there's sort of like there's two sections to the paper comes.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's kind of what I live for, making comics and then making books and novels. I mean,
Let's show
this one here is what's that?
Let's show one of the pages
Of
your comic of Place into Being. Let's show Place into Being.
There we go.
There it is. I hope everybody can see that okay.
That's the first
Let's talk
first page. First page in the book.
So where did this come from? What spawns thing like this? Where would the inspiration come for this?
The inspiration came, I believe there is a little doodle of these panels somewhere in a sketchbook or a page, and I love, especially in doing abstract comics. This one is sort of semi-abstract, where I put, you know, panels on a page, you know, very tiny, and I'm just kind of like scribbling things
Right
in the panels. This one here, there's probably this overall scribble, and then it was, you know, broken. Then in the execution of the drawing of the actual work, sort of turning it into something, almost like turning nothing into something. And right away, these figures come out, and then an idea develops as I'm working on. A lot of my abstract comics just start with working on it, and then the next panel, then the next panel, and it's all abstractly related, but I have no idea what's going on till maybe, you know, halfway through, and then it really starts to speak to me in a sense. And right away, there's like, this is what's going on, and there's a title that presents itself. And then I'm able to then carry through to the comic with that idea in mind. So when it's starting with, you know, nothing, and then it turns into something. It's quite a remarkable process. I'm blown away all the time, really, because, you know,
at the end result, you mean, or
yeah, because I'm not seeing it until
walkthrough.
right at the end when I'm finished it.
Yeah,
you know.
But so we should also mention too, though, that which might be hard for some people who aren't familiar with your work, that this actually, the ink, the black, I should say, the key color here was actually done by hand, and then the color processing was done in the computer, which is great. I think what I'm going to do is sharing my screen.
Here, can you show me for a sec?
Yeah, 1 second here. I'm going to allow people to see the actual original illustration here. Hold
No,
on.
no, I could, no, here.
Yeah,
It's
there it
right
is.
here.
Yeah.
And the I had to actually scan each of the panels individually, assemble it. Oh, they can see. Anyways, this is the original. I don't often make comics this size. I have a few others that are larger, like this.
Right.
And, you know, I want to do more, in a sense, in that scale, because it's just kind of a nice. I like to do larger sheets. You know, it's like 4x8, a 4x8 foot, you know, canvas just with black paint or something. You know.
Well, that was what was interesting about our initial conversations about the book is the size format, the trim size going to be of this book? And I think that, well, that was a big concern for you, was making sure that this book was bigger than the average,
comic.
graphic, the average, 5.5 by 8.5, or
Yeah, yeah.
that sort of like, I guess it would be a little larger. It'd be more like 7 by 9
Yeah.
would be the average. I know Nick Burns is in the room. Nick, feel free to type in the chat what a normal graphic novel size, if anybody would know, would be Nick.
Well, because yeah, comic books are kind of, there's a general size for that, and then, you know, graphic novels have been a lot of different sizes, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but I'm just thinking like the going average size, because
yeah,
a lot of them try to recreate, right, like the actual trim size of the floppy, because I mean, those are what those old Blue Line Pro pages were set for, right? And so that then they would get, shrunk down, which you've just shown that example of how, the artwork is much larger in some cases than the actual finished result. And I think I'll show a copy of the book here so that everybody can see.
And then sometimes
there's if I can there we go. Which we're going to be giving away a free copy at the end of the night here. So one lucky person get one. But
I'm just gonna say, and then sometimes it's like the total opposite, where the artwork is really little.
Yeah.
And this is done in overlays, where here's the pen and ink.
Yep.
And then I have an overlay there and another overlay here. I actually have some tone, some letter tone. Yeah. This one here is inked on a mylar, and then here's the tone.
Yeah, the mylar, and so the finished result, it's almost like animation, where you've got the frames all laying down over one to create the final product.
And then you blow it up, and you got this all colored up. So I scanned each of those layers, were scanned individually, and then I assign a color to them, assign a color to each of the things, and then they're all layered on top. Yeah. And blow it up, and you got, there's some nice tone in here. And so, I work, there's no one set way that I work. I do a lot of stuff digitally, but I also do some painted things, or they're just drawn. Like there's a ballpoint pen drawing that's placed into being. Oh
yeah, Swarm. That's one of my favorites.
That's right. You have the original too.
I have the original artwork of Swarm.
Lucky duck there.
Very lucky duck. Well, yeah, I think. Go ahead.
No, there's this other comic that I've been wanting to do, and for some reason I just keep thinking a ballpoint pen as well for it, and it's always at the corner of my mind to get that thing out.
Right.
There's so many things to do.
Yes. Well, and speaking of tips of pens and pencils, let's share the next image here. with everybody so that they can see it. Is it up on screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually the final page of a
The second of two pages.
three
The
pages,
second of
right?
two.
Oh, second of
Just
two
two
pages,
pages.
right?
Second of 2 pages.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
the first page just sort of shows the pencil lead coming out and exploring and starting to doodle around, starting to, you know, it almost looks more like ink than pencil, but you know, whatever. Yeah, and he just gets more and more carried away, where it's just like, whoops, he's sort of gotten off the edge there, off the ledge, and he gets caught up into the kind of almost like pencil shavings. I don't know if it's pencil shavings, kind of, it's coming from the shadow of the pencil there, and he then ends up being broken, and some of the drawing is just sort of like walking away, just saying, this is, you know, kind of ridiculous. It's just, you know, what a mess this all is.
Is
That's what happens with the broken pencil.
Is this
What's
at all
that?
a commentary on what can happen certain you know, when you're doing certain illustrations that they
When you
can't
do, you just F up, and then you just sit the hell with it, and you just sort of like, and then, hey, this is good. I like it.
Yeah, you keep going down that tunnel of the screw up until it becomes something legitimate.
There never is a mistake. For a split second, there's a mistake, but if you're good enough, if you have vision, if you have just that ability, I mean, it just becomes this doorway, this entryway into another direction.
Well, speaking of entryways into another direction, what about this one?
Yes, well, this is also the second of two pages. Well, actually, no, it's split. You sort of have the third and fourth panel, as well as the seventh and eighth panel.
That's right.
See, yeah, a lot of my comics are kind of these transformative journeys, you know, and I don't know if it's, you know, I want us to change, I want us to evolve. There's a lot of evolution in my work, and just in doing the comic, I'm just starting with a panel, and then the second panel, and the second panel, you know, there's a page, and it's like, I never think how long a work is actually going to be. I never think, oh, I'm going to do a 3-page comic, or I'm going to do a 4-page comic. A lot of comics I'm doing right now, 3-panel things, and then sometimes it's like, what it turns into, it's like, I need 6 panels, I need 9 panels, and it just keeps going. I started a graphic novel a couple of years ago. I didn't know it was a graphic novel. It was just a comic that turned into 13 pages, and then that just ended up being, you know, the first chapter in a larger piece. It just sort of kept going, and it's like, I don't know what controls that. I really.
Well, what about so I just want to talk quickly about the panels in the bottom here section.
Yes.
So there's 2 panels that specifically I personally, when I I know
I don't get it. I don't get it, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. There's 2 panels here that I find very maybe a little unsettling. Disturbing is a little too much, but unsettling is where I stand on it. There's one where the eye, if that's what it is, it's just below where the eye is climbing up the elevator type situation, or whatever that is. And then just below it, it's almost like the eye is on legs, and it's creeping into a bed. And then the next page, or the next section, the next section over, it's panel 5. It's the last panel of the comic, and we'll call it, if we want to call them 2 different people, and the eye is in between them. And I find that also unsettling.
Okay,
Um,
I gotta let you know what's going on here.
yeah,
Okay,
let's
first of all,
talk.
these two guys meet. I mean, we're not seeing the whole story.
Of
So
course not.
there's the beginning section where these two people meet, you know, the square head and this round head, and and someone shows them where to go. So they go into this thing, and then they end up conceiving. We don't see, they have a baby, and it's got a sort of some neat panels there. So this child, which ends up being this, it's this eye thing here, this eye guy,
Right.
he leaves home. He grows up and he leaves home to go to school. So here he's at the institution, and right, I'm pointing, but no one can see me point here. So that almost looks like an elevator. So with the clouds there, he's going to school. Now he's in the next panel, he's in with the other students. You know, you can see which one is him, because he's got that green eye, and they all have this drawing thing, and they're all a connected line drawings. But you look at his, there's this piece that's separated once.
Right.
So it's just sort of me saying this guy's a little bit different. I'm not saying how, but he's a little bit different. And the panel after that, there's the professor talking, there's an assignment. But the picture that you think he's going to bed, he's at a table and he's making his model. He's constructing, he's building, and then he graduates, and then he comes home back to his family, to his parents, and then they sit on him like a couch and they're watching TV. So that's it.
Very cool. And now we're launching a poll. Where does Robert currently work?
Where does he currently work? You didn't want to go with the other question. Which of these jobs did Robert not do?
Oh, we've got more coming. We've got
Okay.
lots of Robert.
So this will be interesting. The results.
Right? Yeah. Well, while people take a look at those, I'd like to just quickly flip back to sharing my screen here to talk about my favorite. Well, I shouldn't say it's my favorite. It's one of my favorites in the book, and I'd like to show it right now while everybody is looking at this. So here we go. And there it is. Inside, outside.
Neato. Who did that?
Yeah.
I
know the artist.
This is a neat thing, and part of this, you know, experiment, just wanted to create comics in different ways that I could play with here. I actually assembled these panels in cutout cardboard, as well as a washer. That sun that you see is a washer, and you can sort of see now that it is a washer. The other things, the clouds, the ground, the buildings, were cut out of a card, so that there's a relief to the surface.
Yes, there is.
So that I could rub a graphite stick or a crayon over top of it. So this is a rubbing. You're seeing a rubbing of the assembled pieces of panels. So the black, all the black stuff that looked like pencil, what you're seeing looks like graphite, is graphite. And then it was scanned, and then I colored it on the computer.
Yeah, it's such a cool piece because of and I think, I mean, that's the beauty of these events, Robert, is having the opportunity to talk about the process and how it is that you create these things. Because I really think when you handle the book Place into Being, it's one of those books that demands like constant review and constant rereading and revisualizing, because of the fact that in your work that nobody would otherwise know, because they aren't there to witness the process. And that's the magic.
You know, and along with that, if you don't understand something the first time, that's fine. And with my work, that's totally fine, because half the time I don't understand something that I've done until a year or 2 years or 5 years down the road,
Right.
where I myself might even go, aha, there, there it is. So 43% were correct. That is where I currently work at Ipsos as a market survey interviewer. And by the way, I have all of these jobs listed were jobs that I did have. So nobody guessed the delivery driver at Guns Bakery, but I was there as well.
I love it.
Was
I
there
love that
well.
you were a bus driver and a grad at Acme Design. That almost sounds like something right out of a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Out of Bugs Bunny and Wile E. Coyote. Yes, the
Yeah.
Roadrunner. I mean, not Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner.
Yeah. Did they give you
I know, eh?
did they give you any free Acme rockets when you left the company?
No, actually, I worked there twice. It was my first job ever. I got a job through the bus driver. Actually, I was always on the bus, and sometimes I had my portfolio case. And he says, "Oh, you're an artist, eh?" And then I guess his wife worked at this place, and they were looking for an artist. So I guess I was scouting for her rather. Interesting. So it was my first job, and then years later, I was there a second time. But we're talking about your thing. I wanted to go back to understanding
Yes.
comics,
Right.
or specifically understanding my comics,
Yeah.
because you know there is a rhyme or reason to it.
Well, there should be,
Even
yes.
though it might just not be totally known what that reason is, there is this intuitive factor which really guides a lot of the work that I do. And I'm so immersed in design and graphic design that that becomes a language unto itself, the placing of lines and objects to communicate something. And that's so much part of what I do. It's like I've always been good at spatial cognition or spatial recognition, whatever, what have you. And I mean, I think it shows in my work. In my paintings, I believe, are very well designed
Hmm.
in a sense.
Right.
The way things are laid out.
But isn't
Um,
that part of it though, Robert? Isn't that, I mean, at least as a graphic artist myself and a designer, it's everything is connected to everything else. So it's very important that, um, I mean, if you're like, let's look at, for instance, a sheet of 8.5 by 11 computer paper. That's the size that we've got to work on. I feel like every aspect of that paper needs to be, it needs to be held accountable. Do you know what I mean? So if you're putting something down on this page, um, every use of space or the space that you don't use
well,
is important.
I, I think you're talking about balance then, in that sense, the
Balance,
way things are balanced in that page, because you could have a whole empty
composition.
space, but it doesn't readily scream out to be empty.
No, it doesn't.
It's just this breathing space
Mhm.
to allow the other areas to sing even a bit louder, right?
Yes.
Um, it's sort of, so you're using all these spaces, and that's what design is. Architectural space,
Right.
is
The
incredible,
page, the
incredible
piece of
thing.
paper becomes your architecture. It's where you're going to build what you're going to build artistically, right? And
And
then
and and it's
no, go
and
ahead.
it's so interesting with me and my comics, is that I don't have a set size or dimension that I work in as well, right? I mean, um, if I have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, the the comic might only end up being half of that, or you know, half of it horizontally, half of it vertically. Like what makes it being its final shape is just what starts to happen with it, and how it just somewhat dictates itself.
Mhm.
And just through the um constant dialogue that I have with what's going on and reacting to what's going on, it builds itself
Well, let's
to
talk about that dialogue.
to its final form,
Yeah, well, let's talk about that dialogue. Let's talk about, for instance, let's talk about, we'll just quickly flip back to the image. Let's talk about this because, I mean, there is a really powerful dialogue that's here in this, but there's no text other than the title, of course, and your name.
Well, it's just a lot of my things are silent. Most of my comics do not have text to it, and
Why do you
I
think
don't
that
know.
is?
Well, I think it's because I'm just much more of an inward thinking person, and it's it's interesting. I mean, because I could think of a number of things to talk about here, and one of the things is, you ever been around people that all of a sudden blurt out something,
Hmm.
and you have no idea what they're talking about, as if they were talking to you, minutes upon end, and then they say something and they think you should know, but meanwhile they weren't talking to you at all. They were just talking. There's this inner dialogue that they've been having with themselves, which then comes to its climax, and then actual words come. And so there's always this inner dialogue, and so it's almost as like words don't have to be a part of the comic. Everyone got this one right. Well, not everyone, but the large majority of people.
The
All
big
of the
four-color ballpoint.
Yeah. Oh, there's only one that actually doesn't exist, and that's the Bureau Liner 9600. I made that one up, but that's okay. It sounds real. But all those other things, pencils have numbers. Things have,
Yeah.
like racing cars.
The Bureau Liner
The
9600 pen.
602. Like, why is it
Yeah.
the 602?
Yeah.
So the dialogue thing, we're talking about that. Always interrupting with these pop quizzes there.
Well, we got to keep
about,
everybody on their toes.
So why there's no dialogue? Well, if there wasn't, well, certainly for that there was no dialogue needed. I mean, it was
Yes.
just
No, I just think it's interesting when
specific.
somebody has that, when an artist is able to depict a full page or multiple pages of work without any text. I mean, it was such a huge thing in the comic book industry when, of all things, a G.I. Joe comic came along and had this all silent issue for what was considered, I guess in the in that superhero realm of comic books, that hyperbole. They had this. There was the whole story was told without any text, and it was
Really, G.I. Joe comic.
Yeah, 20.
Amazing.
Yeah, 22 pages of story and art, and it was completely silent, and that was a landmark issue for a mainstream comic to have done that, was because up until that point, I mean, you had both narrative and dialogue that appeared and in some cases, the editor would all have some text, to remind a reader about something that happened in the previous issue that they maybe hadn't read. Whereas, now artists are pushing the boundaries, like yourself, in this medium in such a way that you're even talking about, doing the art in so many different dynamic ways. We got a great question here from Margot Morish. Do your image tales mostly emerge, or do you sometimes have a narrative in mind?
Image tales. I like that. Image tales. They it goes both ways. Most of the times, when it's both ways, there's an idea for a comic, and I write it down, and eventually I'm always thinking I'm going to do that, but after a while it just sort of ends up in a folder, because I'm always seem to be more, I gravitate more towards starting nothing, starting from nothing, and just starting something, and letting it emerge. And sometimes there's quite a narrative that gets developed through that, which I totally love. And I think it just gets all these sort of things from my subconscious that's coming out, because when there does end up being dialogue in some of these comics that just emerge, it's sort of like I'm just amazed by what actually is hidden inside me. And it's interesting because these recurring themes seem to come up as well. So then it makes me reflect on what's actually going on in my life as well. So yeah, it works both ways. There is the pops into your head, and sometimes you got to develop it a little bit further, and you're thinking about it, and then but those are a bit harder for me to do, because the idea is the fun thing, but then there's a lot of work to execute that
Right.
idea, and to figure out to figure things out, the size of the panels, or how this is going to work, how things interact. It's enjoyable, but it's a lot of hard work. And if I could do comics as well that just kind of flow out of me, because they do tend to just come out of me, why swim upstream when you could go somewhere on a downstream path?
Do you think that, your output is rather astounding. I mean, it's the amount of work that you produce and the level of quality of that work is so fine, so exceptional. How do you think that's, obviously talent plays a factor, but how do you find the time? Everybody just saw a poll earlier about your work life. So you're working nights. Talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to me about how it's possible that you're able to put out you've got the comics, then you've got the knickknacks, then you've got the novelty items, like we saw earlier, the magnetic acid man, which glows in the dark, which you created by hand. How is this possible that you're able to create so much and keep coming up with so many, new things?
It's interesting because these days, and it's been going on for quite a while now, since working, I only work on my art maybe a few hours a day, but I regularly work on my art a few hours a day, and through time things build up, things happen. I'm very fast, it seems. Like, the intuitive process is very fast if you allow that, if you allow your intuition. Like, I've been doing art now for 40 years or so, right?
Mhm.
I was started. I have all this other experience of creating stuff.
Mhm.
And so it just seems to happen. All I have to do is sit down with an intent of, I'm going to make some art.
So do you
I
ever
don't know
have
what I'm
do
going
you ever have creativity block?
I have not. I have not. Knock on wood.
Well,
And you know what?
so I guess maybe a better question is, do you believe in creativity block, like writer's block, artist's block?
Well, well, it seems like a lot. I through the years, I've heard about a lot of artists having that.
Mhm.
So it exists. I don't know what that dimension is that it exists in, but there's obviously things that they. And like there's a lot of I mean, if I had a block, I always have folders of artwork that I could, folders of ideas that I could go to, right?
Right.
But if you're intuitively, there really, I don't know if there can be a block. Hold on a sec. I just want to I'm just looking at these
Yeah,
poll
let's look at the
results here.
poll quickly.
Robert's favorite snack. Wow, there's a tie
Yeah.
for all the above except chocolate covered snacks. What? Chocolate covered ants. What did you
That's
do
what it was
there,
supposed to be. This was a tease.
Chocolate covered ants. Oh, anyways. So nobody chose that. Well, you'd be surprised. Anyways, yes, Hawking Cheesies is yeah, all of those are right up there. Hawkins Cheesies is a go-to favorite, but all the above except the chocolate covered pants. No chocolate covered pants for this guy. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about blocks and whatnot.
Yeah, artist block, creative block.
Well, you know what?
that's
I was
like.
just wondering about this the other day. Is there a finite number of artworks that somebody can do? I know Trump says, it's funny because I heard this a long time ago, then I heard it again because someone was mentioning Trump doesn't believe in exercise because he believes that there's a finite amount of energy. We're like a battery. There's a finite amount of energy that we have. So if you exercise, you're using up more of that energy. So I was thinking about this with ideas and artwork the other day, and I've been on a roll the past couple months on this string of these 3-panel strips that I've been doing, and some of them have turned into multi-pages, some of them turned into just one-pagers, and I've been averaging, one a day for the past 2 months. So there's like 60 comics in the past months. And I'm going, it's like, holy cow, what's going on? But they're like the echelon drawings, the echelon things, which, the book will be coming out.
This you just answered maybe. Well, Nicholas Burns had a question here, and his question was, what is Robert working on now?
I am working on.
You just answered it.
There's a few things. I mean, now is relatively how, like in the past week, like now is also like a week ago now, and there's been a number of things that have happened in this past week to right now. Today, I was working on the next Acid Man Society issue. I think it's at 45. I'm actually sort of looking to see what number it is. I was sort of laying it out. There's a comic that I did yesterday, which started off as a 3-panel comic. I was talking about this a bit earlier. 3-panel comic that turned into a 12-panel comic. And it's about God. And it's about God, but it's also about someone above God. Interesting, but it's Acid Man. It's an Acid Man issue. So anyways, I was working on that yesterday. And then and there's words in it. Every panel has words, and it's like I have no control over this. I mean, it just, like I said, things start speaking to me, and
well, I'm here to attest that I as a publisher, I had no control over Robert, none. I mean, it's a force of nature, and it's best sometimes to let the volcano erupt and the lava flow downhill, and just sort of like let it do what it naturally does.
Let it flow. Let it flow. Let it. I mean, I'm the tap. I mean, me sitting in the chair is me, turning the tap on. It's, and then I mean, having that thing at your fingertip. The next step is just touching.
Yes,
touching the pen, touching the brush. The next step, I mean, yeah. So what I'm working on right now, the Acid Man Society issue, which I mean, when I did the comic, I wasn't thinking of turning it into my next mini comic,
right?
Which is what that's going to be. But I'm also working on this old science fiction piece. Right, there it is there. Which, you know, I started some years ago. There's a number of things that you start and then they don't get finished. And so I'm in the process of finishing some things right now.
I think
But,
that's so amazing that you go back to old
you know,
work, because myself, I have, like you talked about a folder earlier, I have a dare folder as well, and the stuff in there, if for me, it stays dead. I mean, I keep it because it shows, like there are fragments, there are sketches, illustrations, stuff that I worked on. For whatever reason, I can't go back to it. And
right,
I find
right.
that you can go back to it.
And you know the crazy thing about that, when I do go back to something, really mark down when I've worked on pieces, either
Right.
on the something, right? I'll mark down how many hours I might have spent on it, or
Well,
yeah,
that's a
on
good idea. I've
in that.
never done that.
I
I
mean,
should.
it it helps in doing commissions. It's like, okay, a painting this size, this might be this long, and I kind of know how to price it. But anyways, that's a pragmatic aspect of that. Um, but what I'll find is that if there has been a break between
Mhm.
working on a piece, the day I come back to it is the same day a year later, 2 years later, that I last worked on it. And that's happened a number of times, not knowing exactly, you know, when I last worked on a piece, um, until I look on the back and
Right.
write in the new set of hours, and I see, oh,
Yeah.
just look, it was 2 years ago
It's
exactly
two
that when
years
I
ago.
worked on,
Yeah.
you know, and so like, I mean, there are these cycles,
So
you
you
know,
find it
and at
cyclical.
time, what's that?
You
Well,
find that it's cyclical. You find that you can come back to something and reimagine it or give it new life or breathe life back into it.
well, yeah, because I'm just sort of picking up where I left off, like the
Mhm.
sun's in the same spot, pretty much,
So
you
I
know?
think the difference, though, that I'm trying to, this is what I'm coming to here, is that I find that my old work is just that. It's old,
Oh,
it's
it's old
stale.
work. I see. Okay.
And you
Well, you
find
know,
that the work that you've done in it, so you can, you can work with it.
well,
You can do something with it.
because I'm all over the place. I
No
mean,
kidding.
there's no rhyme or reason to, I mean, some of my older work is better than some of my newer work, and
Yeah.
vice versa. I mean, there's no
Well,
rhyme
that's
or reason.
true for any art, though. I mean, lightning strikes, and you have this beautiful piece that you did because everything was just clicking that time. I mean, I think that there's a lot of truth to that.
Um, and I also find, though, that I like just as much the older pieces that I've done.
Hmm.
Like, I don't discount them as older work.
Right.
There's a lot of work, and more so I'm in this boat of thinking for my lifetime here
Yeah.
that it doesn't matter when exactly I did this piece of work,
Right.
but it was done in between my life here,
Okay. Yeah.
and that's really a, a bit
A
more
big
important
aspect of it. Yeah.
than
I've got a
exactly,
great question here
because
for
you can't evolution, airy in an evolutionary kind of way, put my work if you put my works in a logical order, you're not going to see an evolution per se
you.
in
That's
in
a great point.
in my abilities.
So I have a question for you from Dennis Cooley. Dennis says, "Great hearing you, Robert.
Uh,
Wonderful conversation. Could you say something of small, very precise, almost geometric graphics in the book?"
oh my goodness, the only thing I could think of is Pasanki, you know Ukrainian Easter eggs. I grew up with them, and they're just so geometric. I mean, they would have been there since day one.
Mhm.
Whether I don't think I've really, I do them as well myself,
Right.
but I've always liked a geometric work. It's like one of my earliest paintings is a geometric piece.
Well, I think we
And
talked about doing, at one point, I think we maybe joke or muse about potentially doing a book of your eggs?
no,
No?
no, we didn't.
Oh,
No,
okay. I thought we had a conversation.
I don't think I have enough for to do a book anyways.
Oh,
But
okay.
it'd
Okay.
be and then a lot of them have kind of deteriorated over the years because I didn't protect them or whatnot. But anyway, so that's one thing that I could think of. But without knowing specifically what geometric works, Dennis, that you're thinking of,
Well, I think he's
I
just
always
talking from the overall aspect of the book. There's a lot of panels that play on
well,
that precise geometric design.
yeah, and even one that you showed on screen of
Sure.
of the child growing up. I mean,
Yeah.
here are these two figures. They're stick figures, but they have these shaped heads,
Mhm.
to differentiate, from one to another.
Yeah.
Like, basic forms, basic shapes are in themselves, meaning in different ways and have and carry, their archetypes, and they're symbolic and they mean, this and this and this on their own. I don't think I could, you know, I've read a lot of books of this and that over the years, but do I remember of any of it? Can I recite any of it?
But don't you
No,
think
not really.
you're
But I think it's inside me. I mean,
That's what I
I
was going to say.
it's there and it comes out. There is that inner knowledge that I hope I've retained of these things that I've read over the years.
But don't you think your brain kind of works like that? I mean, I'm talking about you personally, where you are so you are so sensitive to these types of things that you see, and your brain takes in the information that you want to hold on to, even if it is subconsciously, right? And
Mhm, mhm.
then when it comes time to put stuff down on the page, suddenly you open up, we'll call it the knack archives, and haul out that file folder that holds that information that you're looking for, and you
Well,
put that
and,
down on the page.
and the great thing about that is that you don't have to think about anything. You just have to
Right.
do,
You just
right?
have to do. Yeah.
I mean, and it's so much quicker. That's why it's so fast.
Yeah.
Because you're eliminating the middleman. You're eliminating
The middleman, I like that.
the actual having to go through the filing system,
Right.
physically or even mentally looking for something inside your
Mhm.
head. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just if you let that being inside you sort of do the talking, do the walking, you just
Yep.
hope it's not someone else inside you and it's real that's speaking, right?
Sure.
um
Sure. Should we
Interesting.
take a quick little opportunity here to show one last treat by sharing my screen here, which is it's a real treat for everybody. It's a commercial that you created
Oh,
for the book, and we used it as part of our marketing campaign. And I really think that it's a worthwhile piece here to show everybody. So I'm going to share my screen, and we'll launch this book, or this commercial. Here we go. Did you ever get that feeling? Did you ever get that feeling? And there it is.
Oh boy, yeah. There's a few commercials that I did, and as part of just loving motion pictures, and I've done some films in the past and familiar with doing some animation, so I was able to do a few things for the book, which was really fun to do. And
Oh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun putting up those commercials, because I think a lot of people really weren't used to seeing a graphic novel receive that kind of media treatment. There it is, the page that was used in the commercial.
in that commercial.
Yeah.
And one interesting point that I want to make here, the original art is about quarter the size of this, so one quarter. And I was in the library, and I was looking at it, reading a graphic novel, but I didn't really, I was just like looking through it. And then something, the title of this piece is called 64 Pages.
Right.
And they're actually, if you could divide them into pages, these are actually the layouts of each of the pages in that graphic novel that I was reading, all just kind of together in. So you could sort of see here, that was the layout of one of the pages, first page, that was the layout, second page, so on and so forth. And I just kept drawing the layout of all the pages on this quarter size 8.5 by 11. And
I like the comic that's beside it too. Is that not the paint by numbers one?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to see anything, but
yeah,
there's the color code there, and yeah.
And so it becomes interactive, where the reader now actually becomes the artist and is able to use your color palette to paint in those aspects and create their own, which I think is fun and hilarious. And yeah,
color anywhere.
Color anywhere. So at this point, I just want to take a moment to see if there are any other questions from the audience. Now's the time to ask, because coming up soon, we're reaching that point where we're going to do the draw for the free autographed copy of Place into Being by Mr. Robert Pasternak. Is there any other final questions that that anybody has and would like to ask? Because we certainly want to give you the opportunity. Now's the time. While Robert and I finish up the last of our conversation for this evening. Robert, I guess my last question for you is, and while everybody else is thinking about theirs, if they have any, is look, we do have one. Sorry, here it is from Paul Gerbanachik. I hope I have that right, Paul. I apologize if I butchered it. Robert, do you spend any free time on things like TV watching, reading, etc., or is all your free time spent creating? I think we've probably delivered
I spent a fair amount of time on YouTube.
Yes.
Watching things. Canopy. Next, not so much, but Canopy, YouTube, and also I read. I read in the mornings after I wake up, before breakfast, usually when I read. Otherwise, the light is no good anywhere else. Yeah. I mean, I really don't spend a lot of time doing art.
That was going to be sort of my closing question, was with the fact that you work evenings, nights, and you're reading in the morning, and you got to find time to sleep. Where art? Like, what is your most creative point in the day? Is it 1 p.m., 2 p.m.? Is there a magic hour?
In my pajamas. So breakfast. When I'm having my breakfast in the morning, I mean, actually by that time, it's not until about 11:30 or so when I'm having my breakfast. And I'll work, I mean, lately it's been working on comics, And then there's a time in the afternoon that if I'm not doing other stuff, I'll work on some art, whether it's the comic that I started or working on, or it's a drawing, or if I have a painting on my easel, then it'd be time that I would do. And then in the evening after work, if I feel less, I'll work on the computer again, because light in the evening isn't. I don't like working in artificial light, but I'll work in the evening
You're the same as me.
or two as well.
You're the
So
same. I love working in good lighting conditions. In fact, in my studio, you'll love this, Robert. I have a Macbeth natural light spectrum overhead lighting system that in early 80s that I got from a design shop that closed down, oddly enough, in Altona, Manitoba, of all places. That's where I got it. And it's I would say that light is on more than the sun is in the sky. So should we do this draw, Robert? Should we send one lucky panelist home here tonight, or one lucky attendee home here tonight with a copy of this beautiful.
Is it stamped?
It is stamped.
Nice.
Yeah.
Show them the stamp.
Okay, hold on. Here it is, if I can hold it up. Oh, I need to get in front of it. There it is. You can see it's stamped, and there's a personal message written by Robert as well.
That's a stamped signature, but also inside on one of the pages.
That's right.
It's probably signed for real.
It is, yes.
Somewhere.
Yes, it's hidden. And there is in true Knack fashion, there is also a, I'm not going to reveal what it says, but there is also a, that's sent out to the person. So here goes. I am going to bring up my list of attendees, and I am going to hide my eyes here, and we are going to select somebody right now. Okay, and the winner is Ken Gregory. Ken Gregory, you are the winner of tonight's free copy of Place into Being by Robert Pasternak. Congratulations, Ken Gregory. Ken, I will send you an email. I believe I have your email. Let me just double check. I want to make sure I have Ken. Ken, if you could you just send me your email address when the event ends, so that I can get your full mailing address. Just in case I don't have your email address, I'm going to give you mine right now. I'm going to type it into the chat. And then you can send me an email.
Way to go, Ken.
Way to go, Ken. Absolutely. And I just want to take a moment here to first off thank Robert Pasternak for taking an hour and a half to chat with us about Place into Being, about his work, about his art, and showing us his studio. Robert, thank you so much for spending this time. I mean, the series has been so great, and having you on it has been such a treat, because I mean, what a way to fill a boring Monday night at 7 p.m.
It's awesome. Yeah.
With the great Robert Pasternak.
Thanks for asking. It's been a pleasure. Thanks all for showing up here.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Not often. Yeah. My studio is open as it used to be years ago, but little piece of it here. So thanks.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. And everybody, I guess my last comments are really just that. I just wanted to say, one, we've got 2 other great events that are left. Next week is Curb Angels with Christopher Ducharme and Lisa Mendes, another fantastic graphic novel, a true action adventure with 4 powerful female characters in the lead role of this comic. And then our final, oh, there's Ariel holding up the comic. Yay, thank you, Ariel. There's Curb Angels, coming soon next week. And then the final event is with a great poet, Roger Levier, who is a portion of the event will be in French and English. So it'll be a bilingual event, as is the collection of poetry. It is in both French and English, and that'll be the 8th and final event in our series. My thanks again to my guest, Robert Pasternak, and to everybody who's out there. Please be safe, stay well, and stay indoors as much as you can until this whole thing blows over. Robert, any final words?
Take care, everyone. Once again, thanks for coming by, watching, listening. It's been a pleasure, and take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Yeah, thanks, Ariel.
Thanks, Ariel. Take care. There she is.